Alright guys, so in this video I wanted to go over some of the different types of damages that you're probably going to see and some of the more common types of chips that you will be doing repairs on. So the first one is going to be the star break. Now this is a typical break. This is very common when a rock hits the windshield. It usually creates something like this. Obviously they're not all going to look the same. They're not all going to be exactly the same, but essentially this is what a star break is. As you can see here, there's not a big cavity inside. It's mainly just cracks. There's multiple cracks that kind of come out, just like a star. So there's not a big cavity. There's not a lot of air in these ones. It's mainly just the cracks that you're going to be able to fill. And that's essentially what a star break is. So the next one is a bullseye. This is a very common break. This is essentially just a big cavity that's inside of the glass. You don't see very many cracks that kind of come out in these ones. There is little tiny cracks that are in here, but you don't really see them. It's mainly just a big cavity inside of the chip, and there's a lot of air in these ones. These are the ones that you really have to work on getting all the air out of the chip. All this black that you see is air. All the little haze that you kind of see in here is air. So these are the big cavity ones. These ones are fairly easy to fill. They fill in pretty straightforward. The resin flows into these really well. These ones aren't too hard to do as opposed to the star break, just like this one. Sometimes these can be kind of tricky with getting all that resin to flow into the cracks and fill the full crack. But with these ones fill in pretty straightforward, and these are very common. So the next one is a combo break. So these combo breaks are probably one of the most common. These ones are fairly easy to fill. These ones have the big break or big cavity in the center, as well as the star break, so all these cracks that kind of come out. That's why it's called a combo break. It's because it's a bullseye as well as a star break all in one. These ones are very common. You're going to get these a lot. You're going to see these a lot, but they essentially fill in just like all the other ones. Fill in the big cavity, fill in all of these cracks, making sure you get all that resin inside of there and you get all of that air outside of there. All right, so here's another one. This one's a half moon. So this one is very similar to the bullseye, but essentially it's not as big of a circle. You can see how there's a little impact point right here where the white is. And then on this side is where the big cavity is, as well as little cracks that kind of come out. You can kind of see right here, this is just a reflection of the mirror that's back there. But essentially it's just this right here. So you can kind of see it's just a half moon right here, as well as cracks that kind of come out. Again, very simple to fill, same process, but it's just a different type of break that you're going to see. This one's a multi-break, so this one is a little bit different. You can see how there's two impact points here, so there's one here and one here, and these are two different breaks. So here's the star break, and then here's a bullseye with cracks coming out. But essentially what happened probably was a rock kind of skipped and it hit 2 points of the glass, or something that hit the glass had two sharp points and it kind of created this. Whatever the case may be, this is a multi-break. Essentially you got to fill in both of these sides, so you're going to be putting the injector on one end, filling in this section of the chip, and then you can put it on this side and fill in this section of the chip. Same thing, you just got to kind of fill in from two different points because there's two different impact points, and there's missing glass from each side. So all right, the next one is long cracks. So this is kind of what longer cracks look like. This is essentially what happens when customers don't fill in their chips in time before they start to expand. So on the left here, this is a chip. This is actually one I remember. This is a customer of mine. She sent me the photo of this. It was just the chip. We set up an appointment for the next day. I came out the next day. She told me, or I came and I saw that the chip had expanded. So she was like, yeah, it ended up expanding overnight. I noticed that this morning. Can you still do it? I still repaired it because you can repair these longer cracks still, as long as they don't go, across the windshield and they're not too big. I'll get into that a little bit later when we actually do repair cracks, but essentially I don't like to repair them if they're anything bigger than 12 inches or so. I have done bigger than that, but it's better if you don't fill those in, just because there's a lot of surface area to fill in. So when you are filling that in, it's going to leave that scar, and it's not going to be as sturdy as before. So longer cracks like that, and you're filling in a longer crack, it's just not going to have the structural integrity as it should. So it's kind of up to you. I have seen a lot of people, repair big cracks like that. I don't like to go over 12 inches or so. 12 inches, it seems like a good point to still be able to repair and still get good clarity out of that. But yeah, you still can fill these in. It's just a little bit different of a process, and I will go over that a little bit more once we actually do repairs. But essentially, this is what it kind of looks like. Here's another one. It started right here on that little chip, if you can see. A lot of times when people get these chips right on the corner edge of the glass, they tend to start to expand more often because there is a lot of tension on this A-pillar. So if you can kind of tell, this is the side of the glass, the passenger side. On this A-pillar, there's a lot of tension that goes on the glass. So if you have a weak point right here, they are very likely that they are going to expand and get bigger. So it's always best to repair these as soon as possible. This customer, I did this one as well. They waited a little bit too long, and then they messaged me when it started to expand. I was still able to kind of save it, filled in the full crack. It came out really, really well, actually. I remember it. But essentially, you're going to have that scar once you do repair it after it does crack out. So if it was just this little tiny little piece, you're not really going to see much. But essentially, if you fill this in, it's still going to have that slight scar there still, and it's just going to be a lot more surface area to fill in, so you're going to see it a little bit more often. Luckily, this was on the passenger side; they didn't really see it, and they were still happy that I was able to fill it in. All right, so here's another one. This is a pressure ring crack. So this one I just did recently. This is usually what happens when a big rock or something hits the windshield, and if you can see right in the center of this big circle, there's a little blemish right there. That's usually where the rock will hit, or whatever debris that came up hit, and then it will create this pressure ring around it. So kind of a weird break, but essentially these are still repairable. I did repair this one. It was still I was still able to kind of save it. Sometimes when it does create these pressure rings across the full crack right here, there's a lot of like missing glass. So as you can see, like right in this section right here, it looks like something hit it. So that's where there's missing glass, and then along the crack it kind of gets brittle. So it just kind of depends on these ones for repairing them and getting the best clarity possible out of them. Some of them you can, some of them you can't. This one I was able to repair, and it filled in really, really well. But this is just another type. It's called a pressure ring crack. These are kind of weird. They're kind of rare. You don't see them too often, but you will see them. And I just want you to know that you can repair most of them. So don't be afraid to do so. Once we start going over crack repair, you'll kind of get a better idea of how to fill these in. And yeah, this is just another one of those weird cracks. All right, so here's a surface pit. So these ones are kind of up to your discretion. I still do repair them. Basically what it is, it's just a little nick in the glass. So as you can see, it's very, very small. It's not necessarily, puncturing the glass, didn't create a cavity, didn't create any cracks that kind of come out. But it's basically a pit in the glass and kind of like a nick in the glass. Some people really care about these. They don't want them to spread. Some people are very scared that it will spread because they don't want to have to replace their windshield. So some people do want these filled in. Same process, you put the injector in here, fill it in. Sometimes you can actually just put a dab of resin on top and cure it over from there. But essentially it's going to be up to your discretion. I do them all the time. People want them done. I let them know it most likely won't spread if it is just a surface pit like this and there's no black inside and it didn't puncture the glass. But sometimes people do want them filled in just to be sure, just to make sure, which I have no problem doing. Usually you're going to charge a little bit less for something like this. Again, up to your discretion. I always charge a little bit less than what I would if I were doing a full-on chip repair because it's going to take not as much time. Some people want them done. I always do them no matter what. So this is just another type of pit or crack that you're going to see. So that's about it. Those are different types. Those are the most common types of breaks that you're going to see. Obviously, there's other ones, some chips that are just way too big to repair, some that just have a lot of glass missing, some that are just really, really long, that have long cracks and long legs on there that you probably can't repair. Just kind of, there's various ones. These are the most common. These are the ones that you can repair. And just wanted to give you guys a little bit better understanding of what you guys are going to be seeing with all of those photos. So with that said, that's all I got for you guys, and I will see you guys in the next one.